Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3 and today we are going to discuss about areas of research and in literature and language. In research in language. Our members are Reski Amelia Anggraini, Nur Sakina Nasir, Sri Aminingsi, Binti Edi, Aisyah Aulia Tahir, and Jihan Maharani. For the first speaker is Jihan Maharani and time is yours.
Okay, I will explain the first material. Phonetic. Phonetic is a branch of linguistics that focus on the production and classification of the word speech sound. The production of speech look at the interaction of different vocal organs. For example, the lips, tongue, and teeth to produce particular sound. Phonetic as an interdisciplinary science has many applications. This includes its use in forensic investigation when trying to work out whose voice is behind of recording. Another use is its role in language teaching and learning, either when learning a first language or when trying to learn a foreign language. Phonetic thus may be called the part of linguistic science which deal with the outward aspect of language as opposed to the inner or psychological side of language. Or it may be looked at even as the part of physics and psychology which deals especially with sound as used by human beings to communicate thoughts and feelings to one another. There are three main branches of this discipline, that is acoustic phonetic, auditory phonetics, and articulatory phonetics. The next slide is phonology. Next slide. So phonology is the study of the patterns of sound in a language and across language. Put more formally, phonology is the study of the categorical organization of speech sound language, how speech sounds are organized in the mind and used to convey meaning. Phonology can be related to many linguistic disciplines, including psycholinguistic, cognitive science, sociolinguistic, and language acquisition. Principle of phonology can also be applied to treatment of speech pathologies and innovation in technology. The next is philology. Philology is the study of the history of language, including the historical study of literary texts. Here, the works of classical antiquity were preserved in manuscript, usually written many centuries after the original composition. Apart from the historic development of language, philology also studies their structure interrelation as well as their influence on the culture of people. Philology includes a number of independent sciences such as literature study, ethnography, folklore studies, and linguistics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jihan Maharani, for the explanation. And now we're jumping to the second explanation that will be brought by Nur Sakina Nasir. For Nur Sakina Nasir, time is yours.
Okay, the next material are vocabulary, grammar, and structure. The first, structure of language. Structure or grammar is one of language aspects which plays a very important role in learning language. It is the main component, particularly in building sentences. The rule of English grammar have become an integral part of students' knowledge. It enables them to produce English sentences that are grammatically acceptable and therefore comprehensible. As a matter of fact, students get some difficulties in mastering structure. There are many errors they make during their learning structure. The system of English grammar will be different from the system of learner's native language. So the main problem on learning a foreign language is the learner's grammatical errors. A language have underlying structural rules that make meaningful communication possible. There are 5 major components of the structure of language. As you can see, there are phonemes, morphemes, lexemes, syntax, and context. And the second, vocabulary. Vocabulary is central to language. At elementary school, English is introduced to the student through learning its vocabulary. It is the most important aspect that will become the basic competencies of learning speaking, reading, and writing skill. Next, grammar. Grammar is a key concept in general linguistic theory. In general pedagogical grammars, according Chalker 1994, Corder 1988, Taylor 2008, seem to be about usefulness or simplicity postulated for pure grammars, according Spolsky 1978, 5. And kinds of grammar. There are 3 kinds of grammar. The first, perspective, second, descriptive, and the last, transformational generative. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for Nurzakina Nasir for the time. And now we're going to the third material that will be presented by me. And it's about growth and decay of a language or a script. Everything in this universe is perpetually in a stage of a change, a fact commented on philosophic and post through ages. Language, like everything else, also can change. It can grow and decay, gradually transforms itself over the centuries. There is nothing surprising in this. Large number of intelligent people condemn and recent language change, regarding alterations as due to unnecessary sloppiness, laziness, or ignorance. For example, in the late 1960s, we find a columnist in a British newspaper complaining about the growing unintelligibility of spoken English and maintaining that English used to be a language which foreigners couldn't pronounce but could often understand. Well, this can be a very interesting area for research language. Research will not only useful for studying the language development, but also for seeing the significance about the history and cultural side of the people who speak about the language. That's all for the third material. And now let's jump to the fourth material. It's about dialects that will be brought by Sri Aminingsi. For Sri Aminingsi, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. The first material is about dialect. Dialect is a regional variety of language distinguished by feature of vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation from other regional varieties and constituting together with them a single language, the Doric dialect of ancient Greek, a dialect of China spoken in Hong Kong. One usage refers to a variety of language that is a characteristic of a particular group of the language's speakers. And dialect is divided into 2. There is standard and non-standard dialect. And about the types of dialect, there are 5 types of dialect. The first one, there is a 4 types of dialect. The first one is regional dialect, a subgroup variety of a language associated with a particular geographical area is called a regional dialect. And the second, there is ethnic dialect, a subgroup variety of language that is associated with a particular ethnic group is termed an ethnic dialect. And the third, sociolect, a subgroup of language that is associated with a social group of any sort is termed a sociolect. Technically, an ethnic dialect is one of kind of sociolect. And the third, there is an accent.
The word accent refers only to pronunciation distinctions. For example of dialects is American English dialect and British dialect, such as Scottish or Welsh. I think that's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Sri Aminingsi, for the explanation. And now we'll jump to the fifth material that will be presented by Reski Amelia Anggraini. For Reski Amelia Anggraini, time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the chance. As you can see to the slide, the fifth material is about language teaching methods. Okay, language teaching involves approaches that lead to methods that are broken down into procedures, and procedures that are a collection of techniques. In language teaching, in the general area of teaching methodology, people talk about 4 points. The first one is approaches. An approach is a theory about language learning or even a philosophy of how people learn in general. The second one is method. A method is an application of an approach in the context of language teaching. The third one is procedures. Procedures are the step-by-step measures to execute a method. These step-by-step measures are called techniques. And the last one is techniques. A technique is a single activity that comes from a procedures. Naturally, various methods employ various techniques. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. And now we are on the last material of our group. It's about linguistic and other sciences that will be presented by Shahrunif binti Edi. For Shahrunif, time is yours.
Okay, in this section, I will explain about linguistic and other science. Linguistic is the science of language, and linguists are scientists who apply the scientific method to question about the nature and function of language. Like all other science, linguistics has a well-defined subject matter. It employs careful method to observe, record, and analyze the various phenomena related to its subject matter and hope to present verifiable description. Like a scientist, a linguist observes his data. Some of a linguist's method of observation include simple listening, phonetic transcription, and use of various instruments such as chromograph, endoscope, pitchmaker, etc. Linguists develop hypotheses on the basis of observation. He first observed linguistic event, make hypotheses, and test to make it verifiable or probable as that of a scientific experiment. Okay. Linguistics requires a very significant help from other science. The first one, linguistics and biophysiology. Phonology is a significant component of linguistics, and phonology is concerned with physiology of human body. The throat, the vocal cord, the tongue, and the whole system of breathing is involved in human speech. These parts are studied in physiology and in linguistics. Number 2, linguistics and neurology. Neurology studies the nervous system and the functioning of human brain. Language communication is possible because the whole nervous system is involved in it. Speech and brain are closely linked together. Number 3, linguistics and physics. Sound is the inseparable component of language, and sound is the subject of physics. In physics, the pitch and the speed of sound is studied and measured. In linguistics, also, sound information is very significant. The sound waves and sound transmission are studied in physics. Number 4, linguistics and physics. Linguistics and biology. Linguistics and biology are connected together when the linguist tries to study the system of animal communication. The last one, Linguistics and Communication Engineering. Communication engineering is concerned with the transmission of speech such as by wire, radio waves, linguistic signal, and written message. Today, that technology is highly developed. We have wireless communication, internet communication for teleconference, telephones, and teleprinters. Tape recorder and television are very common aspects of audio-visual language activity. Linguistics and sociology is also closely related. Language is a social institution and it is a tool of social control also. The sociological aspect of language is the crucial part of linguistics. Language and culture go hand in hand. Language is also concerned with aesthetics since literature which has aesthetic beauty and pleasure is in the form of language. Linguistics is thus related to natural science, social science, and art also. This interesting relationship provides a vast area of research in linguistics. Thank you.
Well, that's all for our material in our group. Me, Aisha Letahir, and the rest of the members would like to say thank you for your attention and time of watching our presentations. Thank you so much. Good morning and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, guys.
Kelihatan kata di mukaku?